everyone out there in YouTube land. So today I'm going to review Amazon's Attack, issue number 1, The Fall of Washington. It's from 2007. Amazon's Attack was a 6-issue miniseries written by Will Pfeiffer and penciled by Pete Woods. This miniseries is actually pretty controversial, and it's definitely very violent, but it wasn't so much for that as the content of the story itself that upset some people. IGN described the series as ill-conceived and awful. Kevin Powers, reviewing the title at Silver Bullet Comics, described it as lackluster, and the level of displeasure among certain fans led some readers to mail their copies of Amazon's Attack back to DC Comics editors. But, like anything, decide for yourself. The art is quite good, and elements of the story seem like they really could have worked in a different setting, which makes sense because a proposed story titled Amazon's Attack was originally slated as one of the miniseries that led into Infinite Crisis. However, it was cancelled and never appeared. Though these projects share the same title, the planned Crisis tie-in was completely different storyline, and it involved the US military invading Themyscira. So, with all that said, let's get started. Okay, first off, a quick warning. This comic does contain scenes of blood, violence, and decapitation, so if that is an issue for you, I suggest you stop watching now and check out some of my other reviews. I've got some good ones on the Flintstones and also Justice League Power Rangers that aren't very violent. And okay, alright, I do like the cover and the art throughout this, actually. Art's really well done. Pete Wood's penciling is definitely good, and I like the colors, actually. I was looking at it a bit more, and I do think the coloring is quite good. So starting off on the first page, you see a guy and his son, and they are at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and they're looking at it and reading the words and stuff, and midway through the page there, you see it says boom, and that's where the Amazons are being teleported in at, and on the next page you can see it's this full splash page, how suddenly there's an enormous army there, and it's a great, I mean, it looks awesome, right? It's drawn really well, and you know, the art in this is fantastic. I just wish it had a better story to go with it. This is also a credit page here, so the colorist on this is Brad Anderson, and like I said, the artist is Pete Woods. The letterer is Travis Lanham, and anyways, it looks really great. You see the Amazons there, they've got their siege equipment, and they have all kinds of mythological creatures and stuff too that they brought with them, so that's really strong. And these Amazons are like a particularly mean version of them, and they're really here to kill all the males, all the men, and all the boys too. So the guy and his son are here, and the boy says, "Dad, I'm scared," and the man says, "There's nothing to be scared of, Adam." And of course his name is Adam too, you notice that? Like, a lot of the complaints about this are that it's a very, well, it's definitely a man versus woman book. I wouldn't go so far to say it's a feminist book, because there are certainly female heroes in it. You'll see what I mean. But it's definitely like a War of the Sexes book. There's no debate about that. So it's Adam. Of course his name is Adam, right? Like the original male. So Adam and his dad, who, you know, I don't want to read into it too much, but Adam's dad would be like God, right? So you could say here that they're killing men, the first man, and then, you know, the male God too. So anyways, they get killed. It's pretty gruesome. And they're like, who were they? And they're just, you know, casualties of war. And then you probably can't see all the details, but they're like executing guys on the lawn there, and pretty brutal. And then there's a bunch of soldiers flying off on Pegasuses. The idea of this book is really awesome. Like, all of the mythological creatures and stuff look really good, but it's a brutal book. So then we jump to the White House, and it's the president, and he's freaking out, and they're like, these women attacked the city, and they don't know what they're gonna do, and the Secret Service try and defend him, but they get killed pretty quick, and the Amazons are there. So says, "Mr. President, what should we do now?" Do we pray for a miracle? And on the next page, that's exactly what you get. They're gonna kill the president, and suddenly they get fried with electricity, and they say, "What was that, a miracle?" And the president says, "No, not exactly, but thank you, Black Lightning." And as you can see, Black Lightning is there. Looks pretty awesome. He saved him. So he says he was at the Hall of Justice, so he was actually pretty close by when all this stuff went down, and just went straight to the White House. And then the next page, you get another beautifully drawn page, you know. This is Wonder Woman's mother, Hippolyta, I think is how you pronounce her name? I'm not great with these names necessarily, but I'm pretty sure it's Hippolyta. Anyway, she's there on the throne, and she looks really awesome. It's really well drawn. But they've taken over the Smithsonian Institute, so she's just hanging out in there. The next page, it's Cersei, who, if you know Wonder Woman lore, is normally a villain, but now she's, working with the Amazons, quote-unquote, and she's a part of why they're being evil, essentially. But there's all kinds of stuff going on. Both the men, the Americans and stuff, the regular guys, they're being influenced by evil outside forces, and so are the Amazons. So this is a war they were both manipulated into, which is often the case with wars. So anyway, Cersei's talking to her and basically getting her revved up, talking about how the humans had captured Wonder Woman and stuff, which is true, but they were manipulated into doing that. And then they said, yeah, they didn't say, they're like, you didn't take your time on getting your revenge, did you? And she's like, no, I didn't. We get another cool page there. She's in a war chariot and all that. So on the next page, let's see, they're talking some more. Oh, and they said that Wonder Woman wasn't where they thought she was because she was held prisoner by the humans and they're looking for her. And the Amazons are different than humans. They are, I don't know if they're immortal. I think, well, I mean, they can be killed, but I think their lifespan is very long, if not forever. So anyway, the Amazons don't find what they're looking for, but Wonder Woman's mom is like, the president's fate, the military's impeding arrival, even the freedom of my daughter, none of these matter at the moment. What matters is that for the first time in the world of men is at our mercy. We must make the most of it. So they say, she says, come my warriors, there's work to be done. And another cool page, she's out there on the Washington Mall revving up her army, and they head out, and Cersei goes back inside and basically shows how evil she is by frying one of the Amazons who's on sentry duty because she doesn't like what that guard said. And we go to the next page, and it's Wonder Woman's mom again, and she says, this is the seat of their government. This is where they make their laws, men's laws. And then it blows up. So she blows up the Capitol building, and the army cheers. And they say, now in honor of my daughter's reported freedom, we march to pay a visit to their great emancipator. So apparently Wonder Woman had gotten free at some point. That was part of the dialogue someone told her. And she walks up to the Lincoln Memorial, and pretty gruesome. She chops his head off, and the next page you see the decapitated Lincoln sitting there, and she's standing on his lap and says, let this be our statement, let this signify our resolve, let the armies speeding towards us know this gesture that we will not surrender. And they fire the catapults, and then it jumps to this page, which is really nice looking. It's really well drawn. And one thing I will often talk about in the art in a comic book is how detailed the backgrounds are. The last Justice League Power Rangers book I read, that was one thing I really didn't like about it, was the background was essentially just color. There wasn't even any detail. It was just gray, pink, purple behind them. But in this particular page, especially on the very top panel, as you can see, it's got this awesome drawing of Washington, the Washington Monument and everything, and the fighter jets coming in, and they say, holy crap, there goes the Lincoln Memorial, and you can see it blowing up in the far distance, and they're flying over, and they're like, oh yeah, and this is another thing where it's like a war against the genders, because the pilots are talking, and then one of them says, and get set for a strafing run on those little ladies down below. Little ladies, huh? They just demolished the Capitol and killed like so many people. I don't know if they'd probably be calling them something worse than that, or they would be in awe. Either way, I don't think they'd say little ladies. So that could be an argument that this is kind of a feminist book, but in any case, we jump to the next page, and they're at the Department of Meta-Human Affairs, which were the guys who caused all this, essentially, because they took Wonder Woman prisoner, and they were actually doing tests on her and torturing her and stuff. It's really, I haven't read that part. Well, I haven't read wherever that storyline takes place. I think it's in the Wonder Woman comics themselves. There are tie-ins to this Amazon's attack, and I haven't read all of the tie-ins. So anyway, they're at the Department of Meta-Human Affairs, and Batman's talking to him on the screen there about the situation. And the bad guys here, the Department of Meta-Human Affairs, is really curious about when Superman's going to show up to help. So I think the writer is hinting at these guys are going to try and do something to Superman. But Batman doesn't know that. He thinks they're just an organization that he works with. So he essentially talks to him about the plan that they're going to do to respond to the attack. So it jumps to the next page, page, and this is supposed to be Sergeant Steele, but he's actually a doppelganger guy in disguise. And you see that when he goes to his office and he opens the secret panel, and the real one's inside. So you can see how they're being evil and manipulating everything. And, oh, it's the last page. We jump to the last page. It's another incredibly well-drawn page. It's really gorgeous. And you see Washington, all destroyed, and they're kind of taking over, setting up tents and stuff, and fighter jets flying over and everything. And this is when Wonder Woman shows up, and she's on the steps, and she just says, "Mom," because I'm sure Wonder Woman doesn't approve of all this. And I'm hoping that, the arrival of Wonder Woman will turn this around, and it'll be more of a conventional story, but maybe the writer just wanted to make it a story about men against women. So let me know what you thought. Did you like this book? Do you think it's worth reviewing the second issue? What'd you think of the art? I thought the art was good, if nothing else. I would like it if they had this artist and a different writer, because seeing the Amazons in action was really good. Oh, which reminds me, the 2009 animated movie is what I took the clips from that I used at the beginning, and I'm going to have one here at the end too. And honestly, my recommendation is, if you haven't watched Wonder Woman, it's just called Wonder Woman. It's an animated movie. It's out on DVD and Blu-ray and all that. And it came out in 2009. Watch that instead of reading Amazon's Attack. It's a much better Wonder Woman story. Alright, so that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It helps me out a lot. So I'm going to have a little clip here at the end that shows how Wonder Woman should be and how a Wonder Woman story should go. Alright, I'll talk to you later, and I'll have another video up real soon.
You're no man. Not the kind I've come to know.
Then you've learned nothing, have you?
Well, I have learned one thing. It's not polite to hit a lady.